Yeah.
All right, we're good to go then.
Let's go.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, here we go. Hey, Maria.
Hey, Lisa.
How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Yay. So today is Friday.
It is.
You know what that means?
Yes.
It's the diversity,
Diversity
duo.
duo.
Let's
Let's
do
do
this.
So today we have a very special guest. She's a friend of mine. It seems like I have known her all my life, but we have known each other for about 3 years. I want to introduce everyone to my friend Monica Adwani.
Hi, everybody.
And
Hey,
I'm going to let
Monica.
Monica talk about a little bit about herself and all the things she has accomplished and what is it that she does and all the things she does for the community. Monica, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me here, ladies.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
It's amazing. This is like a fancy studio.
Yes, it
It's
is.
fantastic. I love it. I love it. So, I am Monica. I am many things, but I'm a mother first. I am a community leader. I love insurance. That's my life. It's been my life for the past 20 years. That's what I do. And I don't know, like, let's see. I know you guys have questions, so I'm more than happy to answer them because Maria, I am not one to talk about myself. So
No, she's not.
without
No,
questions,
she's not.
I'll be like, and that's it, folks.
So I'm happy to jump in because, I don't love insurance.
Okay.
I'm just going to come from that, right?
Great.
I think this is one of those things as a small business, it is overwhelming to think that we have to think about insurance.
Okay.
Right.
I don't like it. And I don't like talking about health insurance. I don't like talking about my business insurance, my car insurance. I never seem to understand before I start a bid response, how much insurance am I? Why am I supposed to have this insurance? What do they mean? Before we get there, because I know you're going to reach that place where you're going to educate, I want to know, where did you grow up? What was your first job that got you interested in insurance? And how did you end up here? And then we're going to move to your education.
Okay.
Not only that, but I also want her to talk about she has a podcast. So after she answers all your questions, I want her. So this is really not a hot chair for Monica because Monica puts people on the hot chair as well. So as you were, Monica.
It's it's a little bit different to being in this chair, especially in between you two. But that's okay. So I grew up in Puerto Rico. I was raised and born there. I went to college there, graduated, and I met who is my husband today there too. He grew up here in Massachusetts, and he always wanted to come home. So he decided to leave Puerto Rico, and I was like, bye. But then I visited him a couple times, and I ended up liking Massachusetts. So when I graduated, I had a full-time job there. I was on my way to like a good professional career. But then I was like, why not? Let's just give it a try. Economics in Puerto Rico has always been tough. I was a college graduate making $5.15 an hour.
Wow.
In my husband, when he came here, he started making $15 an hour, like 18 years ago.
Wow.
So, it was a big difference. It could make a big difference in our lives. And I decided to, cross the ocean. I had no family or anybody here, but, I've always liked to take risk. And that what's brought me to Massachusetts. I did not come here without having a job. So I started interviewing. I had a little BlackBerry at that point, so I could.
I remember those.
I could. I remember, calling employers here and like say, hey, you have a job available, because at that time, almost 20 years ago, things were very differently, right? You will send your resume, and then you will fax it or you will email it, and then you will have to call.
Right.
This is a throwback conversation.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just want to
Yeah.
make sure Elijah's up to speed. So
Yes.
fax machine, we put paper into a machine and it sends a picture.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
BlackBerry it's the first
BlackBerry.
smartphone.
Yeah.
Like it was
The first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
BlackBerry.
Yeah, I don't
yes.
look that old, but yes. I remember those times. So I was lucky enough that when I came to to Massachusetts, I already had a job. I went to school for medical coding and IT. So very different than what I do
Very
today.
different.
Very different. God.
I grew up in the hospital. My mom was a pharmacist, so I always thought that I would, go that route of like the medical. But I didn't like the being a nurse, or I don't tolerate blood. I don't, but I did like the field. So I did my internship in a lab. And when I moved to Mass, I started working in a lab, which was great. And that was when the big oil spillage happened in the Gulf. So we had a lot of work. And I was mostly analyzing data, creating reports and things like that. But then, they decided to pack up and go to California. And I was like, nope, I just moved here and my husband is not going anywhere. So I stayed unemployed for a while. So like any migrant to the U.S., I end up having like 4 jobs. I clean houses. I did the Walmart thing. I was doing tutoring in Spanish for children. And that's when I found a job at Liberty Mutual. But I was at the research center for safety because my background was medical. And so I wasn't selling insurance or doing customer service or anything like that. I was helping researchers with studies on, how, skid driving, how fires, affected a community, or how did they happen.
Wow.
They would bring truckers like FedEx and UPS, and they had a skid driving school in the back. So they will basically like hit trucks against a wall, and they will measure the impact of all these things. So I learned insurance very, very differently from a human factor standpoint. And from there, the rest is history. I started working more. I stayed at Liberty for a couple of years. I went from the research center to do the rotation on claims and sales and customer service. And then I end up where I am today, which is the independent agency side, which is like the brokerage side, where we have accessibility to many different, insurance carriers, but we have the flexibility of helping the community to what fits their needs, and we're not selling just one product. So that part really interests me because there is not one product that fits all. And, not all the carriers are fit for everyone.
Right.
All risks are different. So I've been in this independent space for the past 8 years.
That's
8,
amazing.
9 years.
Wow.
I have no idea.
What was the
little bit.
What was the education that you had to do specific to insurance?
Well, we are licensed, so we have to get continuing education every single year. But yeah, I feel I've been doing this for a long time, and every day I learn something new.
It's amazing.
There is nothing that I can say that I know everything, because I don't. I speak to my peers every single day. I send messages like, hey, this person just walked in with this specific scenario and I have no idea what to do. Can you help me? And every day is a lesson, right? Every day is a lesson, because everyone has a different problem. And this is an industry that is extremely reactive.
That's true.
So it's extremely reactive. It's not, black or white. There is a lot of gray in between. And you need to know a little bit of everything. You need to be a lawyer. You need to know finance. You need to, I consider myself an inspector sometimes. Who knows, right? Carpenter. I know a little bit of everything. So it is fun. I enjoy it, but mostly because we get to educate a lot to the people. Like you said, I hate insurance, and I want to hear why.
Right.
I want to hear why.
I know that was a little extreme.
It was extreme.
Like,
but it's
welcome
not.
to the podcast. I hate your industry.
I hate your field, girl.
No, but it's interesting because, everybody sees it as an expense, right? Nobody sees it as something that could prevent you from financial ruin, right? So from my perspective is, I know how the consumer absorbs the information of insurance based on the stupid commercials that people do, and companies do. But when you are living it every single day and you have clients calling you every single day that, hey, I have a subcontractor that fell from a 3-decker and he's dead. Or, I was driving the truck, it was snowing, and I just stroked 4 cars. And there were children there. I don't know what's going on. I get calls from the police. One of your people is arrested because X, Y, and Z, right? So that's my world. And it's not about just selling something, right?
Right. In I know that you're mentioning all these extremes, but there's also that part of insurance, because I learned this from her, that if you're a book author and you want to have an event, I didn't know this, you have to have insurance for at least that one day. What happens if somebody going to the bathroom fall down in your event? I learned that, and you should have seen the horrified look on my face. What?
Right, Elia? You got insurance? I hope so.
Yep.
Wow.
So there is, it's just liability, right? Everything, it's a liability.
Yes.
Can I throw a question in on that one before we go? So what I'm hearing also is having a relationship with your broker is really important.
It's important.
Very important.
It's extremely important.
Yes.
Okay.
It's extremely
And because
important.
picking up the phone and saying, I'm doing this event, and kind of my role is to explain what's happening, your role is to explain what my risk is.
Right.
And your additional role is to help me mitigate that risk.
Exactly.
Mitigate my financial risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So everybody calls us sales agents, right? I am not a salesperson. I am a risk manager. So, when Maria calls me and say, hey, Monica, this is what I'm planning to do with my business. This is what I want to do in 5 years. Then I'm just going to crucify Maria and say, have you thought of X, Y, and Z and this and that? And, and I was like, hey, you don't need all of this right now, but this is how you need to incorporate it on your budget. And these are the things that you need to think about, because these are the exposures that you're going to be experiencing. And if you don't do that, be prepared to lose everything all at once.
Well,
right. So it's not an easy conversation to have. It's not just like going online and getting a car policy.
Right.
Auto insurance is easy. But what we focus on is mostly, business. We focus on people. Once you are prepared to make the biggest purchase of your life, which is your home, you have a lot to lose. And then if you are putting all your eggs in a basket and you're going all in with a business, you have everything to lose. So, it drives me crazy that, I see businesses 4 or 5 years operating and they don't have what they need because they don't know.
Right. They don't know.
They don't know.
That's it.
And it's nobody to blame but the person that is helping them, because if they are not educating them, then it's on that person. It's not on the client.
Yeah, and I'm going to back off my hate, I think.
Oh, you have a change of heart.
We're changing her heart.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think this is my change of heart. I'm sitting here hearing you talk about it, and I'm thinking, okay, if I have a car insurance, right? I have a house insurance because I own a house, and then I started a business and I got business insurance. And how did I get it? I went in, I made some guesses, and I got this is horrifying.
Yes.
Like this, Elijah, this is a don't do as I do.
Let's do what to do after this, because I need a one-on-one over here.
There we go.
Yeah,
there we
please.
Go.
Yeah. So, and I think the accessibility to purchasing insurance solo was both my mistake and my ignorance around what was the importance of mitigating my risk around insurance. Yep. And then as I took on a client and the client said, nope, your insurance isn't enough, you need this. And I blindly just called the 800 number from my insurance. And I said, I guess I need this insurance.
Yeah.
So to your earlier point of, it's just an expense. It was just an expense. It was.
Yes.
I really perceived it as, in order to get this contract, I need to have this insurance.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Fine, I've got to pay them.
Right.
I've got to pay them to get that.
Right. And then, it is easy today to go online and purchase a policy, right? Like 20 years ago, your insurance agent had to do a manual application, send it to the carrier, wait another 15 to 20 days, tell a story about yourself. So the accessibility to easy click buy today is convenient, extremely convenient for the consumer. But the risk to that is that you are transferring the risk to yourself because the insurance company is going to say, well, that's what you purchase.
That's right. That's right.
It's on you. It's not on me. So I'm going to transfer the risk to you.
Right.
Where we come to play, right? The licensed agents, those of us that have risk management firms, my job is to make sure that, hey, you can buy whatever you want. It's at the end of the day, you are the one signing that contract, that application, you're paying the premium. At the end of the day, it's your choice. But it is my responsibility to tell you that if X happens, you're on your own, and don't come to me because all I'm going to say is, I told you so.
Exactly.
So I just want to say to the audience, like, if you're a startup and you think I need insurance, so I'm going to go online and I'm just going to access the number. Okay, I've got the number. Okay, it's just going to ACH every month. I don't even think about it. We're going to have to talk after this, I think.
That's a risk, yeah.
Because if
it's
you
a
don't
risk.
have the right
It's a risk.
insurance, you don't have the right coverage.
That's right.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, talking to Monica, and she's very active on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, people, Breezy Seguros.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. She's very active in explaining the different things, why you need this. Why? I mean, by the time she finished with me, my head was pounding.
Right.
I remember Maria was like, can I bring the other 4 people that we need to talk about here? And I was like,
Yes,
sure.
please. I mean, I was blinking very fast. I'm like, oh my God. But, this is why you need experts for everything you do.
That's right.
My mom always said, zapatero sus zapatos. I'm good in, certifications. She's good in insurance. You're good in, what is it that you're good in? Just kidding.
Wow.
But you see what I'm saying? Everybody should have somebody that knows what they're doing as it relates to your business.
Yes,
Period.
100%.
I mean, and we talk about this. She invited me to one of her podcasts about bookkeepers or CPAs or accountants. There's so many people out there giving you the wrong information to your detriment. Not only your detriment, but the detriment of your business.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, listen, if number 1 doesn't work, find somebody else.
Yep.
There's a lot of people out there that will give you the right advice. For example, my CPA sees that I don't have insurance. How come you don't have insurance? You should be calling somebody. That's who you need to encaminarte, to walk you down the rightful path.
Yeah, and the thing is, with a lot of our clients, I start with, okay, tell me your story. What do you have? I'm going to drill you like we were dating, like I was going to marry you, right? Like, tell me what you have. Tell me your background, like where all this came from, how much money you have in the bank and how much money you have at home.
Right.
Like what are your plans? What are all these things? And based on everything that you say, then I ask, so how do you want your future to look like? How do you want your future to look like? Like, are you doing all of this because you want to create continuity? Because you want to create a legacy? Because you want to create generational wealth? Because you want your family to have an X type of, lifestyle?
Right.
Like, what is that you want, and how do you perceive yourself in the next 10, 20 years? And then once you have that picture, now let's say, how can all of that end up in just a second?
Right.
Because at some point, all of us in our businesses experience, some sort of dissatisfaction from ex-client or some sort of issue, right? Like, I'm in insurance. I have a risk management, and I receive lawsuits every single day. I receive lawsuits because a policy was canceled. I was like, well, great. I receive a lawsuit. I will respond to it. You didn't pay your policy. Your problem.
Right.
Right. So, and the miseducation on everything that goes on behind scenes is why most businesses end up closing 5 to 8 years. Right. especially like restaurants and things like that, right?
Yep.
During the pandemic, I can't believe that was 5 years ago, but I was extremely saddened and I think mostly upset that so many businesses from people I know in the community closed because simply, we've been telling them, hey, you need these coverages, you need this coverage. And just by a simple coverage that doesn't cost more than $200 a year, which is the business interruption coverage,
Wow.
a lot of them had to shut their doors.
Wow.
Lost everything.
Wow.
See, I didn't know about that.
Had to file for bankruptcy. It's like, dude, pay the $200.
Right.
You
right.
know, it's just an additional coverage that goes on your policy.
Amazing. So
But because I want to save $200, I didn't measure those
Wow.
consequences.
So business interruption would have covered those businesses that went out of business during the pandemic.
Some of it, depending on your exposure, yeah. And, most of them didn't have workers' comp.
Right.
Because they try to subcontract everybody.
Yep.
There is a lot that it is not just about having the right coverage. It's about how you're structuring your business operationally.
Mm-hmm.
And we help people with that, right? Like it's a team effort, right? If I am talking to a business owner and I know that they can have an opportunity to get certified because it's going to help them grow, and financially I know the goals of one of my clients, I send it to Maria and I'd be like, listen, this person, I don't know if they're going to do it now in 6 months or a year, but I think, you should push them to do this because of their goals, and we will be able to cover them if, the company grows and continue, because we want them to experience financial freedom, right? Same as you don't have a business plan. Well, we offer fractional COO services. We have other people. You don't have a marketing plan. We have people, we have a network that can help those business owners succeed, but business owners have to be willing to listen, and they have to be willing to invest.
Yes.
And that is the difference. I don't see insurance as an expense. I see it as an investment because at one moment you are going to need it. A cybersecurity breach is going to happen.
Yep.
A client is going to be upset and is going to sue you. Maybe a counterpart is going to do something, against your brand, and you're going to need protection.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what intentions people have or what can happen in a blink of an eye.
You know the topic that keeps coming up, and I think this, if we went back the last 4 or 5 podcasts, it is about business owners asking for help. Mm-hmm. And saying, I'm not an expert in this particular field, but it's your expertise.
Right.
Will you help me with that? Mm-hmm. And it's that humility of putting yourself out there and knowing first your worth, right? Your worth is, even though you didn't say I have a skill, I do. It's procurement, thank you. Supply chain.
I know her.
My
because
husband
we
is in
collaborate.
procurement.
He is?
Yeah.
What does he do?
Yeah.
We can get to that.
Yeah.
Unless we want to talk
No,
about it now.
I want to know now.
Yeah.
Procurement. Go ahead.
No, he's been so he globally sources all the ingredients, and he managed all the contracting for Ken's Foods, who is headquartered here in Marlboro.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
that's neat.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at
Okay.
that. So he got procurement, she got insurance.
There's-
A match made in heaven.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That
The
is
pandemic
interesting.
was interesting with all the logistics and stuff that,
Yes.
I
that
can
he
only
had to go
imagine.
through.
I
yeah.
can only imagine.
Wow.
I learned a little bit about it.
I often say that during the pandemic, everybody became a procurement
Yes,
a procurement expert.
100%.
Yeah.
I definitely learned with him being at home.
Yeah. No. But yeah, I think that that's a common theme that I think we should talk about differently. I don't know what yet, but I think the help that's out there, I don't know what's going to come of this conversation, but I think we build something, maybe a resource guide or something that we have accessible on the website.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it just can't be by accident that every guest talks about offering help and the success of business owners who seek help.
Well, the problem is that as a business owner, you are thought that you are in charge and that you have everything on to do everything on your own. And we feel shame, right? A lot of people feel shame of asking help because then that's seen as a sign of weakness or a sign of, not being successful enough. And I think that is something that's a myth that needs to be, broken apart just because we all need other people to tell us, hey, you should do this, or hey, based on our conversation, I recommend you to do that, because we are so into our business that sometimes we don't have the vision that we need in order to execute the correct way. Right. So everybody needs everyone. In mentorship and in coaching,
absolutely,
it's everybody's job. It's everybody's job.
We have talked a lot about insurance. We talk about procurement. I want you to look at the camera and tell the small business community, what is at least the most, and if I'm wrong with this, we can cut it off, but what is the most basic insurance protection that a small business owner should have, obviously depending on what their field of expertise is, because as a consultant, I don't need insurance for somebody that's in construction or somebody that fixes cars.
Right.
So I know it's different type of coverage, right?
Yes.
So what is the basic that, for example, somebody in consulting or somebody in construction will need? Especially construction is an animal that stands on its own, as we all know.
That's what I do every day. Well, the reality is that there is generalized insurance products, right? Okay. You need the general liability. You need the workers' compensation, right? You need the commercial auto. Do not use your personal auto for business or your business auto for personal purposes. You need the business personal property, right? Like, let's say this is studio, right? Maybe you rented, it's not yours, but anything from the walls in will be business property that you have to insure. A lot of people don't have that because they think that because they rent a place, the landlord is responsible for it, and they're not, right? Let me see. Business interruption coverage, life insurance, extra liability insurance. There are many things. So there is generalized insurance products. What changes is the exposure. And inside the insurance, and I'll explain this because it's important. Inside the insurance, when you go and select, let's say, a general liability policy, you will understand that we will ask you, so what is that you do? Because every single business has a code, and it's we have infinite codes of businesses, but based on that code, you will be insured for certain things and you will be excluded from being insured of certain things.
Oh, interesting.
So as you select what you do, right, that insurance policy will be structured differently. So let's take a very basic example that will be very easy for someone to understand. Let's get a contractor. A contractor will say, well, I'm a contractor, but I only do framing, and I only do roofing. I am not gonna do interior. I am not going to do windows. Yeah. I'm not gonna do any of that, right? So we are gonna select two different codes. One for framing, one for roofing.
That makes sense.
Right?
That makes sense.
But then at the job side, then they decided that they were going to do a deck, that they were going to do the windows, that they were going to do a chimney, right? Mm-hmm. But none of that is actually covered because they didn't put that they do masonry. They didn't put that they did carpentry, right?
Okay.
So if something happens while they are doing a job and it's found that they were doing other exposures that they are not covered for. I don't care if you're paying $10,000 on a general liability policy, you're not going to be covered, and your your claim is going to be denied.
Wow.
So it is very important that when we ask you, what do you do? You are very, very honest, because that's when the lawsuit comes in, right?
Interesting.
Oh, I went to Monica. She sold me a policy. I have a claim, and now the claim is not covered, so I'm going to sue Monica so she can pay me for the damages. And I'd be like, good luck.
So that's
You know?
really interesting, because
It is.
I'm going to go back to filling a thing out online. And I don't want to say I was dishonest, but was I thorough?
Right.
That's what's
That's
got
it.
me
That's
thinking.
important.
That's
right?
the key word
It's
there.
a thorough question.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got me freaking out. So,
Yes.
right?
She has done her job.
I did my job, guys.
Yes,
This is it.
Yep.
We're done for the day.
But that's this is an honest freak out right here, right? Because first of all, I signed up for the insurance when I started my first week.
Yeah. But you have evolved since then. And
Thank you. Thank you for noticing.
And I know. You're amazing. You are amazing.
I love this.
Appreciate you
So,
noticing. Yeah.
and this is the thing, like,
Yeah.
businesses don't look that, every month, every 6 months, every year, you evolve into
Yeah.
something new. You add a service. You are now maybe having more people. Maybe, you decided that your package of services have to look a little bit differently. And I need to know that. We need to know that.
Oh gosh.
So not to freak you out, but let me ask you this now. Okay, so you are a small business, let's say providing consulting services,
just
and
say
you're
that.
working out of your house.
Uh-huh.
And
Sounds like Maria.
yeah. So what type of insurance besides home insurance, which only will cover my home, what other insurance besides the basic liability or professional insurance do you need?
So if you're working from home, you're doing consulting services, you need a business owner policy. And
But this is a consulting that you don't see clients and just
Let me
yeah, that's fine. The answer's gonna.
I'm
The
seeing
answer's
it.
gonna
No
be the
client.
same.
I'm seeing what
There's-
happens to you.
Yeah.
She wants to negotiate what she does.
She won't be able to. I have
no.
access to all
But
her
I'm just
information.
asking questions. What else this business owner that I happen to know needs? So she works from home. She doesn't see any clients at the house. But for those of us that have something like that, what is your advice?
Yeah. So the first thing to know is that your home insurance will cover nothing in regards to your business.
Okay.
Okay.
And wherever you have your business situated within your home, you could add a business out of the house endorsement that exists, but that doesn't cover anything for your business. It's just telling the insurance company that, hey, I run a consulting business from home.
Okay.
And that's it. That's
All right.
not, it doesn't do anything, right? The important thing to know is, like, if something were to happen in your house, right? That business property that you have will not be paid by your homeowner's policy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Whoa.
So,
My computer.
Exactly.
books.
That's everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
My printers.
Files.
yeah, files. None of
Phones.
that. None of that. So, with that being
I'm
established.
freaking out.
All
Vicks,
right.
I'm hyperventilating.
freaking out.
With that being established, ladies,
Thank you.
you need a business owner policy. That business owner policy, I know a lot of people buy a general liability policy,
Yeah.
but you don't have to buy a separate general liability policy if you have a business owner policy. So
Okay.
if you have a business owner policy, the liability will be in there because
Okay.
you can have up to $4 million on a business owner policy.
Okay.
And then you can add your business property in there. So you can add 10, 20, 30,000, whatever, if you are selling products and you're shipping them from home, your inventory, whatever it is, you can have it on that policy. And then you can add other things. Like, say it's a nonprofit and you're running your nonprofit from home. You can add on their business policy the directors and officers, coverage and all of that. So it all depends on the type of business, right? But definitely, if you're running your business from home, For me and under my practice, you need to have a business owner policy because it's going to protect you at the minimum, right, of what you need, while not putting your home insurance at risk, because if something were to happen between the two policies, you will be covered.
Okay.
So,
Good to
you know, now, let's say that you decided that the shed that was behind your house or the detached garage, you converted it into an office.
Okay.
You don't get walk-ins, that's fine, but you have that space.
Yeah.
Right.
That whole space, that square footage has to be insured under a business owner policy for a building,
Oh,
because your home insurance will not
that's reasonable.
rebuild it.
Yeah.
Because your business is there. So, you know, and then the client will be like, but why do I pay double for that?
Yeah.
Well, you're not. You're really not paying double, because in reality, that is not going to be covered under your home.
That is both
policy.
reasonable and not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not obvious, not like, there was a word I wanted, but it wasn't that one. But no, like you say it and it's like, oh, well of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have believed my insurance. And again, I don't have a separate unit. That would be a very nice life. I would like that. But to leave my house and walk into my backyard would be a
Long
dream come
commute.
true.
Yeah.
But I have, for example, I have people that do woodwork, and they have like a shop, right? And they converted their 2-car garage into their woodwork shop.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, appreciate what you're doing, but you need to have this separate.
Right.
And they're like, no, but I still have to include my garage in the home insurance. Like, well, I'm sorry, you are the one that made that decision.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So it's different exposures, different things. So we really have to scrutinize and look at everything. And when we ask you these questions, it's not to be difficult. It's not because we want to sell you more.
Right.
It's because, you know, the question I ask my clients is, do you have X amount of money in the bank that if the insurance policy says sorry,
You're going to rebuild.
you can take all that money and say, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So in what financial position do you want to put yourself? That's the question.
That's amazing.
That's the question.
So if you already have an insurance coverage, can you go back and call in and said, hey, I need business owner
100%.
policy? Okay, it's good to know.
100%. Your insurance policy is a breathable and continuing contract.
Okay.
So it can be what we called endorsed. So it can be changed at any given time. So if
Up or down? Up or down? Adding or taking things
adding
away?
or taking.
Okay.
Yeah, adding or taking.
Nice.
Yeah. It can be changed at any given time. There are certain situations that, you know, do not allow. So, for example, building limit. Your building limit is never going to go down because property only appreciates with time and it becomes more expensive. So, and we are regulated on certain things that we need to do. So, for building coverage, we need to run a report and whatever is that, and that's regulated across the state. So whatever that amount comes back to be, it's going to be inspected and it's going to be reassured by an inspector on site.
Yeah.
In this case, it could be a drone, it could be a person, who
Sure.
knows. But there are certain things that are non-negotiable that we cannot, you know, we will not put you at the risk just because you say you want less. We are not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
It's liability for us. And at that moment, I will prefer to tell you, go get insurance somewhere else.
Like online.
Maybe.
I'm seeing a pattern.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe. But yes, your insurance, it can be changed and it can be altered at any given time. Yeah.
Okay.
That's fascinating. So I'm always curious, you know, and I ask people, what is a horror story that you can share, not to be doom and gloom, but you know, we all learn from the mistake of others, or I hope that we do learn from those mistakes that you came across and you were able to solve for your client.
That I was able to solve. I solve a lot of problems on a daily basis. I need to think about that one. You know, most claims we can help the client solve them. Most of them are paid, but a lot of them are not.
Okay.
Just because of the specific situation. You know, what we actually encounter a lot, and this might not be as specific to business, but it has happened to both, you know, our, you know, personal clients and our commercial clients. Because we deal with a lot of the immigrant community, a lot of them are targeted on the street. And I've had clients that, you know, they've been driving and they get stopped by the police officer for whatever reason. It could be a tail light. It could be, you know, maybe the sticker. Maybe they
profiling.
You know, anything.
That's
You know,
what it is.
you've been there.
Yes.
That was your past life in the law enforcement world.
Right.
And you know, we've been able to save them from getting arrested, from, you know, their car getting towed, you know, their business being, you know, putting in a stop working order, just because, you know, they can get a hold of us and they'll be like, I am here with a police officer and I don't have my documents with me. Can you send them? And then, you know, we're able to send the registration. We talk to the police. We send the registration. We send, you know, copy of their passport because we have it on file.
That's amazing.
Copy
That
of
is
the
amazing.
license. Or, you know, if it's a workers' compensation and they go in to put a stop order on site, you know, we can send them a certificate of insurance and say, no, you know, maybe it's not updated on your records with the state, but they have it. And it's here. So I think that's the kind of like daily things that we deal with. A lot on the street with law enforcement, definitely. And also, you know, mostly construction job sites also, I will say that we deal a lot with that. And then there's the not some fun ones that we haven't been able to help in some cases, but it's because either the client hasn't been truthful to us or, you know, and we cannot control people.
Right.
You can't. That's right. You
We
can't.
cannot control people, but at the end of the day, those that we really, you know, that are willing to help themselves, we are able to help them. I guess that's
Amazing.
the best way I can put it.
For the audience, for people who are trying to enter into the insurance industry, what's
to
the
me.
point of entry?
to me.
What's the challenges of becoming, you know, part of the insurance world, an insurance agent, then an insurance broker? What does that look like? How long does it take? But overcoming challenges, I think, is the big question here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that enter the insurance industry quit within the first 6 months. And it's
Really?
because it is difficult, you know, to have these conversations like the one we have had today. You need to be persistent. And if you're entering this industry just for the money, you're not going to make it.
Okay.
You're not going to make it because you really need to have a genuine heart of service. It is great to click the purchase button and, you know, get the commission and the client is happy. But what comes after that is years and years and years of service. And if you are not prepared mentally or emotionally to deal every single day with problems, then don't do it. Because our world, you know, even though there is a lot of satisfaction and a lot of good things that you are able to accomplish on a daily basis, your entire day will be reactive and it will be problems.
Yeah.
Problems to solve and more problems to solve.
Wow.
So, you know, if you don't have a passion for education and you don't have a passion for service, you won't make it here. It's just as simple as that. And for those that want to come in, I will say, you know, I've had great mentors along the way. great people that I have learned from, and not so good ones either. You know, like I've gone through a lot of things, a lot of bad decisions too, but it's part of the learning experience, right? But those that you can find, that you can, you know, become mentored from, that's the best thing you can do. And just know that it's going to take time.
Yeah.
You know, I remember it took me at least about 2 years to become comfortable on having a conversation with a business owner. So 24 months of,
Wow.
you know, doing this every single day, and I was still not 100% sure. And even with, like, now I focus on the Latino community, I never work with my community. I spent 15 years working with high net worth clients. So having to relearn how to service, what are the needs of my community, how, you know, what are the pain points, how do they like to be communicated.
Right.
Like, I had to relearn everything because I was used to a different tier of people, right? So I think you just need to be open to change and need to be open to relearn every single day. That's what I have to say.
I love that. And when Monica, when you were talking about having those conversations, the difficult conversations, Maria, you and I have talked about this. I like to refer to it as the consultant shrug.
Right.
Right? The shrug is, you can do it this way, or you could do it this way, right? And that shrug is, with that shrug has to come, I'm not married to your solution. I think I know what the right outcome is. I'm going to tell you what I think the right outcome is. But you ultimately, to your point earlier, you own the decision.
It's your decision.
I can't, I'm not holding a gun to your head.
Right.
You get to make the choice.
Right.
But to really get, I don't know why I think of it as a shrug and I visualize it as a shrug. But for me, it's just that I'm disassociated with this, but I only want the best for your decision in that. And
And honestly, I've had clients, or they never became clients of mine, which is totally fine, but they became friends. Where I had to say, you know, they're like, oh, but I found this other policy with this, you know, other company. And I was like, great, bring it to me because I want to check what you have there.
Right.
And if they still the best option and they have the coverage that you need, I will be the first one to tell you, go there. If I cannot offer you what they have, I will tell you, go there, do this. This is the plan. And then we move on. And then I'll see you next year.
That's right.
So it's nothing wrong with that. But I do really want to see businesses thrive. And with the recent happenings in the past 5 years, it's really sad to see so many people struggling. You know, kids not having a home, kids not having food, you know, parents are struggling. Maybe, you know, now they're down to one income. And it's like, how can I help you in all different aspects of your life? And we can't, you know, like, it's not just about, you know, life insurance became a big thing after the pandemic. Like, so many people, you know, die. And now our families that don't have any backup support, right? People that think that because they have a terminal disease that they cannot get some sort of help or insurance, you know, there is this big gap in education that needs to be done. So, you know, I think on behalf of myself and my firm, I think we lead with that, with an honest and open heart of service. And I think a lot of folks within my industry do too. And there are some that don't. It's okay. And that's fine. But if you really care, you know, and you really care about your future, about your family's protection, I understand that, $600-700, maybe $800 a month could be buying groceries, could be buying other things. But let's find a way, a happy medium where you can still have a little bit of protection
Right.
in case something happens to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's budget for that. Let's make
Yeah.
a plan. Because like it or not, at some point, all of us are going to have a need of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I like to see is a GoFundMe for that.
Oh, God,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it
That's
just
right.
drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do just want to point out that the heart that you were talking about I didn't feel that from the website when I signed up for my insurance.
there
I
you
didn't
go.
really feel it.
There's something to say about human interaction.
It's
Yeah. People
So-
buy from people.
Yes.
people should buy from people, and
Absolutely.
I will fix that. I will commit to fixing that.
Monica, can you talk to us a little bit about your business and what markets or what communities your business cover?
Sure. So I'm at Breezy Seguros, all right? And at Breezy, we are focused on helping the entrepreneurial community and the individuals too, but mostly Latino entrepreneurs. Now, we're not going to turn anybody away,
Right.
but we do focus and market heavily to the Latino community just because they have the biggest gap in education when it comes to insurance products and risk management. So what I do, I do many things, but what we do as a collective is to ensure that our clients are well protected, and we offer, financial security through insurance for their businesses and their future. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what we do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
That's really great.
That is
Yeah.
great. And we will put her information at the end of the podcast, so anybody that is looking to establish a relationship with Breezy Seguros, you'll have that information at hand.
And at minimum to just make the comparison, right? That's
Absolutely.
really what I
Yeah.
heard
Absolutely.
from you.
Yeah, or just connect with me personally, Monica Adwani on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook. I answer the phone
Yeah.
to everyone.
It's amazing.
She does.
so-
She really does.
So I think this was amazing. I'm sorry that our time is coming to an end. I have loved every moment of this. You have freaked me out. I am not gonna cover that up. I really as a business owner, I have not given enough consideration. So I thank you for that. I thank you for the knowledge. Maria, I'd love to turn to you for a moment and say, what are your takeaways from today?
I have I kept on writing like a maniac here.
Yeah, like 2
But
pages there.
Yeah. Well, you gave a lot of information, my friend. But some of my takeaways are, for example, how to structure your business in order to have whatever kind of insurance you need based on the structure of your business. That insurance is mitigating risk.
Yeah.
Also, that it is very important. If nothing else, this is my number one takeaway. You have to have a relationship with your broker or your
Yeah.
insurance company, because they are the ones in the know. They will guide you, and they will provide you with enough information to protect your assets. So those are I'm just going to go with those 3 takeaways, because I'm still a little freaking out about some of the stuff we talk about.
Yeah.
But this was really.
I'm not like I wasn't here to freak out people.
No, you
No,
just
it's a good
opened
freak out.
our eyes.
You educated us in a
Yes,
way, yes,
yes.
that
Good.
opened our eyes.
You
So,
open our eyes and remove
Yeah.
that fog.
Yeah, the
that was
fog is
before
lifted.
us. Yes.
We can't unsee what we see now.
No, we cannot. We cannot.
All right.
That's
This
amazing.
was absolutely wonderful. Monica, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for
your
having
time.
me. Thank you for the conversation.
This has been great. and
I enjoy talking insurance.
we notice, and that I think that's what sets you apart from the competition, that your willingness to go that extra mile. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Well, folks, I really hope that you got an earful from this podcast. We certainly have, Lisa and I. Even my the producer back behind the cameras. I think that he also got a lot of information, and we're gonna be calling Breezy Seguros soon. I want to leave you with my favorite quote. I wish I could change it, but if it's so fitting to what we do, let's continue to amplify diverse voices and foster meaningful dialogues. Until then, this is Maria. Thank you for listening.
And I'm Lisa. We're the Diversity Duo. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.